That's how, and we dragged these big boxes from house to house and play. And then across the street from us was a row of walnut trees, and we used to call them the shady trees, and we used to go under there and play, and the women would go there and sew, and that'd be, you know, it was nice and shady there. And I said the earliest memory I have of my dad, I don't know how old I was, but it was before Florence was born. He won a golden hair doll on a punch board in a tavern, and he brought it home and he gave it to me. I can still remember that. And another thing, my mom said when I was little, I had long golden curls. And everybody used to say, well, why don't you get her haircut? It's too long. She got my haircut, then it came out straight. So anyway, and then I remember when I was a little kid, my mom used to make my clothes because there was no money to buy, you know. And I can remember I was a little kid, and I used to go to my aunt and uncle's every day, and my uncle would say, and what did you have for breakfast? And I'd say, butter bread and katsi. And he used to think that was so funny, he'd ask me that all the time.
What is?
Huh?
What were you trying to say?
Butter bread and coffee.
Oh.
And your dad mentioned about not having ice boxes. What they used to do was to keep something cool, they'd put it in a bucket, you know, and put it down a well. If milk or something, but mostly you had to go to the store every day because
They didn't deliver ice to people either to have a real ice box?
we didn't. The
You
tavern.
did if you had an ice box. But most people didn't have
No,
one.
we didn't have an ice box. I can remember when we didn't have a nickel in a house. I mean, these company houses, the rent was $4 a month. Sometimes my dad would work one shift on a paycheck. And we never had any kind of health insurance. And we never went to the doctor. Earliest I can remember the doctor coming to the house was Florence and Nancy had the measles, and I had the chicken pox, and the doctor came and put a quarantine sign on the house. And then the next time I went to the doctor was, I was out of high school and working, and I still got a hearing problem, but it was already then. And I remember the doctor checking my ears, and he said there was nothing wrong with them. So, I mean, it's a lot different than it is now. And
So when was it that Grandpa had a tavern, and you worked there too, right?
yeah, he got the tavern when I was 19, let's see, I graduated from grade school in 41.
45.
I mean, from grade school.
Oh.
Grade school 41. It must have been about 38 or 39. He and another fellow, Tony Moon, had the tavern. Then when I got to high school, I had a 10 bar. I'd come home from school. I was the youngest bartender I guess there ever was.
So
But,
did you just pour beer, or did you have to make drinks and stuff too?
Yeah. Well, it was just whiskey, and mostly what they drank was shots of whiskey and beer and soda, and they had cigarettes and candy, but it was a small town, and everybody knew everybody, so I mean, I never, you know, had any problems whatsoever. People
But was
back
it mainly the women, or the men that went to the tavern, or the women too?
No, very seldom women, mostly men. They come and play cards and look at the paper and watch. Then when television came, they watched television. And I can remember when my dad got the first television set at the tavern, I used to go up there when Milton Berle was on the Texaco Hour, and then later on we got a television at home. But we
When
never
was that,
got-
like the late 40s? You got one at the tavern?
Because after it was, yeah, because I think I was
So
working
you had that tavern for a pretty long time then, huh?
until 1950. That's 56 or 57, 56, I think.
When the mines went down, everything went down.
But then this other guy got out of the business. That was something else I was going to mention. Oh, and then when I was in high school, you know, after school I had to go up there because my dad, the lines were working better then. And I would go up there, then stay up there till my dad would come home, and then on weekends I'd go up there. And then when I was working in St. Louis, my mom and dad were on the house most of the time. My mom wouldn't go up there, so I'd come home from St. Louis and spend my weekend in a tavern. They'd be closed all week. So I had a, but And my sisters never went. Forrest was up there one time.
Well, they were younger though.
Huh?
They were younger.
Well, Nancy was younger, but Florence was old enough too. But she was smarter than me. And let's see. Well, my dad, we never had a car till I was about a junior in high school. Then my dad got a second-hand car. We used to call it the Blue Goose. And let's see what else. Well, when you wash clothes, everybody had, they had a little brick thing with, made fire on the outside and burned wood, and they heated the water in the boiler and boiled the white clothes out there. And then there was a contest to see which woman could get her clothes on the line the earliest in the morning. And then they had the coal stoves, which would make a lot of soot, you know, and if the neighbors were to get along, they'd fire up that stove. Clothes would get all soot over them. And once when I was a young kid, real young, Leona and I used to play together quite a bit. And we used to have a chicken coop and a wood shed and a tool shed. And where the wood shed was, there was a cord hanger down with a light, but there was no bulb. We used to stick our finger up in that and get shot. We could have killed ourselves and didn't know it. If we'd have wet our finger and did that, I wouldn't be here today. And well, when I went to high school, well, I guess we had a walk. There was no bus or anything. We didn't have a car. The only time we ever got a ride was when I was a senior. Albino was a freshman, and my aunt had a car then. And sometimes we'd get a ride to school or from school with her because there was no buses picking up kids. That started with my sisters. They were able to rent us up. But I can remember walking, I guess it was about a mile and a half, 2 miles. We'd get to school, my hands and feet would just be frozen. And all the while I was in high school, I had to be home by 10 o'clock every night. If we walked down there for a basketball game, I had to leave because I had to be home at 10 o'clock. And you know, back then, like I say, we didn't, for Christmas and birthdays, like I never did had a birthday cake. And everybody was in the same boat. You know, nobody really had anything. And we didn't get a telephone till about the 50s, I guess.
So would you ever get presents for your birthday or for Christmas or toys or?
I remember one time getting a little wagon of blocks for Christmas. It had to be before Florence was born, and we had a bench on a porch, and there was a noise, and my mom told me that was Santa Claus. And I went out there, and this little thing of blocks was out there. But you know, we didn't really ask for anything either. And I wanted a bicycle so bad. I used to dream of having a bicycle, and I'd get up in the morning and it wasn't there, and I'd be so disappointed. I finally got one when I was about the 5th grade, 6th grade, something like that. Sometimes we ride our bicycles to school. And Margie Costa, my neighbor, she's been my neighbor and friend all my life, we decided to roller skate to high school. That was something else. And when I was in the 8th grade, we had, it was a small school, and at that time, the county seat had a superintendent, and he was the superintendent of all the schools in the county. And they had 8-month schools and 9-month schools. And the 8-month schools were for people that lived on farms, little country schools, and the 9 months were for the town. Well, I got the highest grade in the county for the 9-month school. I was 98.6. I missed a real simple interest problem in math, and thought I got that. I got 10 points higher. But anyway, then I had to give a speech in Edwardsville at the gym.
When was that?
Huh?
That was after in high school?
Grade school.
Oh, grade school.
In 41.
What did you give the speech about? Do you remember?
I don't even remember. And then Lillian, you know, Courtney, she got the highest of the 8-month schools that year, but she didn't get as high grade as I did, but she was valedictorian. And you heard me talk about Louis Scroggins, my first boyfriend. We went to that graduation. I don't even remember how we got down there, and I didn't even know he was there or anything. But I had a yellow dress, and it had lace up here and it was short sleeve. It was what they used to call it, I don't know if you ever heard Marquisette. Did you ever hear that kind of material? It wasn't a net, it was thicker than that. And after the graduation ceremony, he came over to where I was and he told me I looked like a yellow rose. I'll just remember that. Anyway, and after I got out of high school, I went to business school for 9 months and worked in St. Louis.
Western first.
No, I went to business school and worked in St. Louis, and then I had only been at that place a long time. It was a Ramsey Corporation. They made piston rings, and they had a place in St. Louis that worked in an office. And they went on strike. The worker union went on strike, and I came home. And that's when I got a job at, well, it's old one, but it was Western Cartridge then. And then I stayed down there 5 years, and then this one woman really made my job unbearable. And I just couldn't take it anymore, so.
What did
Margie was working at Mallinckrodt Chemical, and I worked down there 5 years, and the first 2 weeks vacation I got another job. And then when I went back, I told I was leaving, and I worked at Mallinckrodt until before Bobby was born.
What does that woman do that was so bad? She,
Well, there's a lot of things she did. There was just a small office, and she, all she did was on the phone planning bowling parties and this and that, and she'd hold up all the work in her office, and then when they'd get calls about it, she'd bring all that work out to me, which she should have done before, and I'd have to type up all these things. And then I sat, they had 2 timekeepers, and I sat here, and she'd come back and whisper in their ears, you know, and just ignore me. And then there was another woman at the other end of the office. She and I were real good friends. And I never would have left that place if it had been for her, because it was a maintenance department, and there was all men in there. I mean, like plumbers, electricians, you know. And they were really nice to me. I never had one problem. In fact, last month I went to Alton to see this one man that worked in a meter room, but he did remember me. He's got Alzheimer's. So, but
was that where you were the queen or something like
yeah, I
that?
was Queen of Western.
How did you get chosen for that?
Well, I don't remember exactly how, if each department could sponsor somebody. There were, I think, 4 candidates, and then all the people would vote. But see, like the guys in my department would go out to all the other departments, because that's where they did all their work, so they got a lot of votes for me. And then they had a crowning and everything, and I got a big
Is that
silver
the same
tray.
place that Aunt Josie worked at?
Yeah, later on. But I don't, did you ever see that big tray I got?
You worked there later on, you mean?
No, she worked there later.
Well, she worked there during the war too, though, didn't she?
No, not there.
Oh, somewhere else.
And it's got my name engraved, Westerner Club Queen. That's what they used to call me. Then Florence and Nancy were queens at high school, Fall Festival queen. Albina was a Fall Festival queen at high school. Nina wasn't a queen. It's just the rest of us. And I don't know what. Oh, well, also, you know, we visited my grandpa's grave in Altus when Bobby was in Little Rock. And it's a real old cemetery, but it's kept up real nice. I never dreamed that I would get to see his grave, you know, because I never thought I'd be going to Arkansas. But I think my mom and my aunt went back one time and visited the grave. And my mom always used to tell me my grandpa was a real tall man, over 6 foot tall. And that he was really a nice guy. And that's about it. I can't think of anything else.
Well, batteries,